If you're being destroyed by this, at what cost? Could you move? Could you change jobs? Could you leave your town? What's up, guys? Welcome back to the podcast. Got a guest with me, Bernie Calcote, second week in a row. Good to have Bernie with us. We answer your questions about life or love or whatever it might be. And whenever I have those kind of questions, I'm calling Bernie. So that's why I feel like he's a good guest to come on and answer your questions. That's how I feel about it.
I do the same as y'all though, but I got his cell phone number, so I just text him.
True.
Instead of his email address.
Yeah, next question from Bernie.
Yeah, more than answering it, I feel like a lot of times we're processing it and hopefully helping you guys just process it. Yeah, we'll give you some advice and stuff. We're not always right, and we don't know all the context, but hopefully there's something to be had with just hearing it from somewhere else and processing it together.
Absolutely. So we answered those questions through your email. Email me, grangersmithpodcast@gmail.com. Put them in order here. We'll walk through them as if we're sitting around a campfire or sitting in the cab of a truck, just having a long discussion. There's no right or wrong answers a lot of times with these, so just bear with us. We don't have notes or books or quotes or famous, answers to your questions.
We're not very smart, but we try.
Yeah. We're not very smart. First question. The subject line is very profound. It says podcast question. And the email says, it's been 3 years since my last real relationship ended, and it was my fault. Said and did some things I shouldn't have done. I've been struggling ever since to let go of the past, but she was the best thing that happened to me. I could really use some advice. Thanks. Josh.
I know you're retiring from country music, but that is a song if I've ever heard it, right?
That is a country song, Josh. So 3 years, this relationship ended. Now, let me tell you what's going on. I'm not a psychiatrist, not a therapist, okay? None of those things. But I am a country songwriter, so I can tell you.
Same. This
is what's going on in your mind. The longer this time is going and you're not healing, she's becoming better and better in your mind to the point now where you're saying she's the best thing that has happened to me. That you didn't say that when it first happened, right? That she's growing. Her legend is growing in your mind.
No, that's really good. That's the word right there. The further you get away from it, you're forgetting all the things and maybe the reason that you split. And I mean, does he say like he's having a hard time moving on?
He said he's been struggling ever since to let go of the past. He said some things and did some things he shouldn't have done. That's the deal. That's the issue.
Okay. So let's just say let's just say that's part of it. I think you're probably right. That's probably the deal. He has to let go of that stuff and move on. But maybe you can speak to this. Like, is there other things that may be happening that you he's trying to his life is trying to move on past this? Yeah, there's the things he did and said that he regrets or wish he couldn't do. There's maybe this girl is still in his orbit somehow, and maybe there's some things he needs to correct. Maybe there's some things he wished that, we go to the same school and I don't know how to move on when I see her in science class. What do you say to somebody in that situation where he has to deal with the things, letting go of the things he did wrong, but how does he move on and not let that legend grow in his mind when he's still kind of seeing her or she's in his orbit?
Yeah, that's a good point. Being in the orbit is that puts a new twist on the whole answer. And, because otherwise if she wasn't in the orbit, we'd say, buddy, you got to go. It's like when your dog dies, I usually say, go get a puppy.
Yeah.
Go get a puppy. And so it's the same thing, like time to get a puppy here. Not literally. You know what I mean. But if she's still in your orbit, Bernie's saying, then you got to take extreme measures. If this girl is not coming back, which it's been 3 years, you got to start doing crazy things like blocking her on social media, Like if it's destroying you in some way, what's the cost of that destruction? Like, would the cost of the destruction would it be better to move? If you were getting destroyed by this, I don't think you are completely, but if you're being destroyed by this, at what cost? Could you move? Could you change jobs? Could you leave your town and go somewhere else? That's another country song. But you're going to have to consider breaking the orbit, getting her out of your orbit, right?
Yeah, for sure. The only reason I think of that is because he said 3 years. And so if you're holding on to something for 3 years based on solely some things you did wrong, then there's a bigger issue. My guess is she's still in the orbit in some way.
Yeah.
And
he's looking at her going, man, she was the best thing that ever happened to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Josh, you're not alone. You break the orbit. Deal with these things in the past that you did, because guess what? You did it. It's done. It's in the past. Learn from it. Don't do it again. That's really the best thing that could happen. You don't do it again, and you get with a girl that you start really liking, and guess what's going to happen? You have shell shock from this. You have a little PTSD from this relationship, and when the new girl comes around and you really fall in love, you're going to think, hopefully, if the lesson worked, you're going to think, I ain't doing that again. I ain't messing this up like I did the last one. That's a good thing, man. That's a great thing.
Yeah, you're going to start to see those things that you're now regretting that, man, I wish I would have done this different. In that relationship, you're going to see those things as, man, I'm so glad I learned that then so that now I can do it the right way and I'm not going to make those mistakes.
If you do that, you make that correction, you will attract a woman that's better than this one. I promise you.
And that's a Granger Smith guarantee. Please email us back because we want to hear kind of how that shakes out, what happens.
Yeah, for sure. Next question, subject line says, child loss. Hey, Granger, I'd like to remain anonymous. I'm going through hard times right now. My husband and I, after years of trying, finally got pregnant. We were so excited to finally be parents. Not long ago, our baby was born prematurely and passed away. I know that everything I'm feeling is natural, but I'm feeling very bitter and angry towards God. I know that He is in control and healing takes time. I was hoping you had some advice on how to cope with the feelings of guilt and bitterness. Thank you. Oh, sorry. I'm really bad at that, guys. If you put your name and say to be anonymous.
Paul just needs to get a little beep, like a censor beep.
Sorry, I'm so bad. I'm like Ron Burgundy. I just read the message the way it is, and there it was. Yeah, anonymous. Thank you so much for the email, being vulnerable. I'm so sorry for your loss, and your thought process going through this is natural, and I also admire that you're reaching out, that you're wrestling and you're studying and you're listening. I'm guarantee you this is not the only podcast you're listening to. So you're listening. You're probably reading books about this. I would encourage that as well, and hopefully, I'm assuming that you're also plugged in at a local body of church, and you're talking through stuff with people there. This is so common. And I don't say that in a way to minimize your pain or the anger or the guilt and grief and all. I'm not saying it that way. I'm just saying, welcome to the human race. Babies are born prematurely and pass away. And it doesn't mean that it's a good thing. It's an awful thing, but it is a part of life. And I hope that knowing that is a bit of an encouragement that look at it this way. When I've always, before we lost Riv even, I've always felt a connection when I'm walking through a cemetery, and like an old cemetery, an old church, and you walk through those grounds and you see the little graves, there's something so interesting and so intimate and special about the little graves, because when they're old like that from the 1800s, you see the little grave, but then you see right next to it the mom and the dad, and then you see the other siblings, and then you realize, oh, they're all here. But at one point, they were all standing on top of the dirt, looking down, crying and grieving. But in just such a short time, there they all are. their earthly bodies collected together. It's such an interesting perspective. And that's healing for me in a way, to just look around and go, I didn't even know these people, but this was everything to them. This funeral was everything. This loss, this grief that they went through during this time, was their whole world was crumbling around them. And you walk 48 paces to the right and you see another one. And there's the story, and there's the family, and it was, the baby was lost to diphtheria or whatever it might have been, incurable disease in the 1800s. And it's no different for us now, that, we will experience loss, we will experience grief, and it's not a matter of if, it's just when. And so what we need to deal with you, first of all, I don't think this has been a long time since this happened. So that's a factor here too. But what we need to deal with is your view towards God. And it doesn't surprise me or Bernie that you would say you feel bitter and angry. And then in the very next breath, you say, I trust him and I hope in him, and he is in control. You say he is in control. Mm-hmm. So what do we do with this besides read a bunch of John Piper?
I'm not sure why, but these these three words are coming back to me that we've talked about before, and maybe this is just like, a very practical, one step at a time path to some sort of healing. So the first is communication. I think you probably need to meet with a therapist or a Christian counselor or someone and just communicate what you're feeling, and just be open. The second is community. Like, I think that if you're not surrounded by other believers, other people that have been through this kind of trauma, just having community, there is just healing from this through relationships. So I think you need to, or I would just recommend making sure that you are just surrounded by people you trust and love you and you love them. And the third is communion. Just don't forsake that. It's okay. Come to the Father and repent. God, my heart has been bitter, and I hate that, but that's my flesh is feeling this and it's feeling this, and just come to communion with him. He wants to hear it. He wants to draw near to you. He wants to give grace to the humble. And so just, practically maybe those three things, just try those. Maybe that will just start a series of things that can help heal and start to move forward.
Yeah, it's so good. There's a lot of meditation you could do in the Psalms itself, and we can never forget in our current society where we just try to sugarcoat everything. And what Bernie's saying is that if we go to the Bible, we see laments, and it's very unpopular to lament in today's culture, right? Mm-hmm. But and I'm just flipping through several right here. But what we see, especially in the Psalms, is this idea of how long, O Lord? How long will I grieve? How long will I suffer? How long will the pain be on me? And that is a righteous question to ask. It's not right. It is a sin. I'm going to be clear about this. It is a sin for you to be angry at God. But it's not to say, God, I know you're in control, but how long will I suffer? Could I ask that? And we read through the book of Job, and Job, it says at the end of Job, he never sinned. Through all he went through, he never sinned. But he lamented, and he was in anguish, and he was in pain, and it's important that he was never angry. And to be angry with God in a situation is to say that you don't trust that he's good, that to say that he doesn't have a better plan. And what's even more dangerous about that is you're wasting the good that is working in you through your suffering if you're angry and bitter towards God. You're not allowing that endurance to do its work, to cultivate whatever needs to be cultivated within you, you're putting that to waste by saying, I'm bitter and I'm angry. Instead of saying, I'm in pain. How long, O Lord? But I trust you. I trust that through this pain, through walking through this fire, it is helping me in some way, a way that I can't see. But you're always working through suffering, ordaining even the evil. You're ordaining that and allowing it. That's an unpopular thing to say these days. But if you're sovereign and you believe he's in control, guess what that comes with? When you say God is in control and God is sovereign, guess what that comes with? That means he's also controlling the evil. Otherwise, you'd say he's in control of the good things, but he's out of control of the bad things. That's ridiculous. We don't believe that. So we say he's sovereign, he's in control, like your email said, and you trust him even when he ordains or allows evil things to happen because he's working them for a better purpose, a greater good for his glory. In the same way that you would discipline a child for their greater good. Imagine this. I take my son to the dentist and he's having his teeth worked on. And that could be seen in his limited perspective as evil from me, is
painful
for me. But I know it's working for a greater good of his teeth. Mm-hmm. Now, that's a terrible analogy compared to what God's greater good could be. But we have to see that there's some reason, and most likely many reasons, that you are put through this suffering right now. You're put through this fire. So then your choice comes in. Are you going to waste it? Are you going to prolong the healing and just be grumbly and mad? Because whatever's happening is happening regardless of you, right? But the way you react to it is what you can control. So you're going to allow this healing to take place. Allow the growth to happen. Still lamenting, still sad. You don't have to get rid of that, but trusting that it's for a greater good.
Yeah, that's really good.
I went probably way too long on that subject, but we'll continue here. Oh man, always interesting to see the unequally yoked line come up in a podcast question. It says, hey Granger, first I want to say thank you for your show and what you do. My husband referred to your podcast to me since he's been listening. I've noticed changes within him that I've been praying for.
Like I'm talking about, bro.
Attending church out of his own desire and more. Grateful and humbled by people and the method that God uses for his will. And he definitely seems to be using you. So anyway, I don't want to go too far on that, but thank you. Praise God. Onward to my issue, I'm perplexed by my brother-in-law who's about to marry someone he is unequally yoked to. They are both Christians, but within the course of their 2 years of dating, I have seen evidence of the fruit of the Spirit within her and my husband, and I have been more concerned since their engagement in the new year. She's always unappreciative and complains about everything. Ultimately, she's immature for her age, while he is mature. Since the engagement, I've been praying for soft hearts and for God to mold me as he sees fit and for my husband's heart to soften, plus his family's. God brought the story of Jonah on my heart, and I felt humbled as Jonah. Who am I to deny her what God could be calling her to this family for and what it could mean for her? Her own family is broken, and her family is very unkind and manipulative. For a month or two, there was noticeable changes. Everything felt better, but unfortunately, that came to a halt when her future mother-in-law and 2 future sister-in-laws, me included, were trying to plan a bridal shower. And I'm just going to kind of paraphrase because this is a long email. Then it ends up saying, this has been the most difficult year for me figuring out how to deal with this because my brother-in-law seems to either be blind to her issues and immaturities or he is naively thinking that it will get better after marriage. We worry that he views marriage as a finish line. She just turned 25 and he has just turned 25 and he's been yearning to get married for so long now. I'm going to skip a little bit more and just say they don't know what else to do. Please help. This is causing a rift in our family. Thank you. Sorry it was so long. Does it say anonymous? Did I say anonymous, Bernie? I don't think so. Kaylin from Oregon.
No, she didn't say anonymous.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, can you recap what was I saying here?
Well, first of all, the title of the email, that unequally yoked marriage, which I would initially think that one is a believer and one is not. But then it sounds like they're both Christians. They're both believers.
Yeah.
It sounds very similar to the first question on the last episode we did together, where you have somebody that has this brother-in-law, sister-in-law that they're not really.
Let me say something. I read something wrong. Within the course of 2 years of dating, I have seen no evidence of the fruit of the Spirit within her. And my husband and I have been concerned since their engagement. Okay, got it.
But she is professing to be a Christian.
Yes, both of them are.
Okay.
So this is similar to last week. We had a question about similar to this, and this is not uncommon. This is very, very common. And I can tell you that just from the experience of reading your emails, the percentage of emails I get that are somebody in the family's doing something that someone else doesn't agree with. And a lot of times it has to do with someone they're involved with romantically. And the family doesn't like the person. And as Christians, usually it's like, and they don't show evidence as a Christian. And so we're just worried and consumed. Hey, Kaylin, I love you and I appreciate the email, but you just wrote a really long email about your brother-in-law. And that's a little odd to me. Is it a little odd to you? Like, man, I've got a brother-in-law and some sister-in-laws, and I just can't imagine being so consumed that it was just overwhelming. I just needed to write a podcast and long email.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't even know the advice that I would give here other than, you probably need to not worry about the speck in her eye and maybe just think about yourself a little bit. It seems like we're being very critical of this girl, right? I mean, that's what I get is it's very critical. And I also understand you're trying to communicate your experience, and so if a lot of that is negative, you're probably going to communicate some negative things.
Can I say I'm not downplaying your emotional state. I'm not downplaying this, Kaylin, okay?
So this is her brother-in-law. So this is her husband's brother.
Yeah.
I would this is where the live podcast is going to be awesome, because then I can look at you and say, hey, your husband's sitting next to you. Stand up. Have you talked to your brother? Have you guys used words face to face and communicated and asked questions, approach that conversation with a curious mindset? Hey, I really want to understand because I'm seeing this, but keep that to yourself. Hey, bro, I'm trying to understand how things are going, man. Tell me about her. Tell me about what this is, and just start to allow him to discover it. If they're not supposed to be together and the things that you're saying are legit, it's not our place to say that's wrong. But as a friend, if you're in that relationship with them, maybe it's your place to ask questions and help them to really process. And maybe they get to that place by you asking questions and sitting with them through it.
So we only have a couple minutes till the next break, so let me try to just kind of recap what we said on last week, where we just said, lead with love. Lead with love. Build your brother-in-law up instead of tearing him down. He knows you hate this girl. I'm just going to put it bluntly.
Yeah.
He knows that. Build him up. Love him. Encourage him. But this is something Bernie touched on last week as well. We have to say this too. Know the line when you, Kaylin, go, hey, I'm gonna politely bow out of the bridesmaid thing, or this is starting to affect me. You don't have to say this, but if it's starting to affect you and your immediate family, your core group, then it's okay to say, I don't have space. I'm so sorry. I love you guys, but I don't have space right now to get into the weeds with this kind of argument or this kind of dispute or disagreement. So I'm going to politely bow out of being involved with this wedding planning stuff because it's affecting you in a way that it's going to start affecting your relationship with your husband. And if that starts this chain reaction, this is bad. Okay. So I think you're in slight danger right now of this possibly getting between you and your husband. And we don't want that. So know that your husband and you're the core group. It starts there. And then when you get these outer problems with the family, sometimes it's best to just smile and love and nod. And you could think, I don't agree with it. But at the same time, that's his decision.
Yeah,
he is doing this. We're going to take a break and be right back. Thank you guys for listening to the podcast. If you want to catch me on tour, you still have a few chances left to see the music side of things. I'm going to be touring with live podcast and speaking events and things like that. But if you want to catch me playing music, this is your last chance. The last show will be August the 26th. There's a handful of dates in between there that still have tickets available. A lot of these shows are sold out, but you could check it all out at grangersmith.com. At the same time, you could also pre-order my book. I hope you do. I really hope you do. I've talked about it. It's called Like a River, and you could pre-order that straight from grangersmith.com. It's going to send you out to any of your trusted books store websites, Barnes & Noble and Amazon and wherever you like to buy books. Grangersmith.com homepage is going to direct you to all of those. You just click a link and it pops it into your cart. And if you want to get a personal video message from me saying anything you want to anybody you want me to, I could make that for you from cameo.com/Granger Smith. Or you could download the Cameo app. Search for me, Granger Smith. I make you a message according to what you want me to say. So it's like, hey, Granger, say happy anniversary to my wife. It's been 13 years. She's the best mother and the best wife, whatever you want me to say. Whatever, it could be anything to anybody. You send me the criteria of what to say. I pick up my phone, I flip my camera around, and I send you a personalized video message. Again, that's cameo.com/Granger Smith or the Cameo app. Search for me, Granger Smith. And then if you need anything yee related, any of that is at yee.com. Without touring with music coming up in the fall, I'll probably have a more prominent role there again, like I used to with my two brothers, Tyler and Parker, running Yee Apparel and then going out and doing some kind of book tour for Like a River after August the 1st. I appreciate you guys. Back to the podcast. Back to the podcast. We kind of mentioned it a little bit in the last question, but we would like to do a live tour of this podcast. When music touring's done, I'll have space and travel availability to go out and go to some kind of theater or convention center or church or hotel conference center, set up some mics, maybe a couch.
Or somebody's living room.
Maybe
awesome.
Go to your living room. Okay, so just kind of, you guys just stow this away and be thinking about.
Yeah, I've said it before. You guys are the best fans. Granger Smith Podcast fans are the best fans. And probably because you're the only ones who come up and talk to me whenever I go to shows and events with Granger.
That's true. That's true.
You guys are always so sweet and supportive. And I think y'all have gotten a glimpse into Grizz probably deeper than most other fans.
Yeah, that's true.
If you've been tracking this podcast from the start or listened back from a long time, y'all are on a different level.
True.
With the man. So
let's
go.
Let's get to this question, which is you email grangersmithpodcast@gmail.com. This one says, please open desperately seeking marriage advice. Hey, Granger, I'd like to stay anonymous. Noted. First, I'm a big fan of the podcast. It's inspired me to pursue a relationship with God on a deeper level, so thank you. I'm desperately seeking wisdom. I am 22 years old. I'm a college student going through my final year of school. My girlfriend of 2 years and I have talked about taking the next steps and getting engaged soon. I love her very much. We are plugged into a great church that pours into us. We went to a day-long class for serious pre-engagement couple training through the church. We talked about the concept of submission. They taught that the decision-making process in marriage is 50-50, which I agree with. However, I have also been taught elsewhere that the man at the head of the home has the final say. But writing this email, I self-reflected on this to make sure that my heart was in the right posture. All I want is to have a God-honoring and biblical marriage. But the confusion with Ephesians 5 and its variety of teaching has us stumped. My girlfriend is reluctant to give us power. My girlfriend is reluctant to give up power and agrees with the 50-50 partnership without the man having the final say. I believe it's a 50-50 partnership with the man having the final say, given he will be held responsible for the decision on Judgment Day. It's driving a wedge between us. I want to know your thoughts. I apologize for the lengthy email. Blessings, Anonymous.
This is good, man. I don't know if this is a subject we've talked about before. I don't even know what you're going to say right now.
Yeah, this
Do
is
I even
great.
know you?
Well, this is great. And I want to say, before we start anything, I just want to say, I love the wrestle. I love that I don't know if I've ever heard this ever in an email to the podcast in 191 episodes. It says, before writing this email, I self-reflected on this to make sure my heart has the right posture.
Bro, why you got to be anonymous, man? We want to know your name. That's awesome.
That's so good. I've never had anyone say it that way.
And just all of the stuff that he's doing, that he's talking about that they're doing before they get married, the things they're talking about before they get married. Yeah, go ahead. It's really good.
I probably want to start on the last line. It is driving a wedge between us. Oh, I would really want to sit down with you two and really unpack that this hypothetical scenario is driving a wedge between you two. I would think that's a red flag on this relationship, that it could even get to a wedge like this. Because now I want to speak outside of the Bible, outside of faith. I just want to speak just logically and practically. When you have two people that have agreed to be 50-50, then how does any decision get made if it's split? That's just a question I would want to ask.
That's a math question.
Yeah, that's just math. I mean, in any kind of partnership, business-wise, military, the United States government, there's a lot of equally positioned people, but there's always a decision maker, a wedge breaker. But it's interesting that Amber and I, like, it's never been like that. It's never been a thing. Mm-hmm. Like, first of all, I can't necessarily think of a scenario with Amber and I, and I'll let you speak with Les, but I can't think of a scenario when that we were so split. I was right, she was left about some topic that mattered so much that somebody needed to make a decision, but we were too deadlocked in our own ways that nothing was going to happen. Mm-hmm. I can't even think of that ever.
Yeah. No, I don't think we've ever encountered that either. I mean, the key word being something that matters, because we will definitely split on the dumbest stuff.
Restaurants, movies, whatever.
But eventually we get back, like, hey, this isn't a big deal. Like, you just decided it's not really impactful to our marriage.
Okay, so here's an example for you. You guys have an adopted child, mm-hmm. right? And adopted her as a baby. It's been many years since then.
Through foster care.
Foster care. So at the beginning of that process, you could have said, I really want to adopt. And Leslie says, I really don't. Mm-hmm. Like, in that scenario, you're going to say, then we probably shouldn't.
Right.
Because that's a situation where you don't want to do this. I'm not going to force it on you.
Right.
And that's what marriage is. That's the compromise of marriage. We don't have to go to Ephesians 5 to know that.
Right. Yeah, I wonder if there's a bit of trust issue with this young girl. Um, and I want to just be respectful to all the women out there. I know that there's been a lot of males that have treated women very, very poorly and disrespected and misused power and all of that. And there's no justification for it. And so I just want to say that, and also at the same time balance the design intent of marriage and how it is supposed to be. And at the bottom of this, it sounds like there could be this trust where if she were to say, yeah, I'm going to submit I'm going to trust you with the final word. I'm going to trust you with the final decision, that she's kind of like releasing part of her power to him. And she may have something in her past that she's just not comfortable doing that. There just may be some trust there because I think when a relationship is healthy and it's built on trust, I think, from, the woman, there can be this, hey, babe, I trust you to have the final say. Like, I trust you more than I trust myself. And I also trust that you value my input and you listen
with honor,
and you're gentle and calm. And the husband's response is, babe, I have so much respect for you that these tough decisions, I want to wrestle through it with you. And then I want us to pray together and, God to have the final say so through me and through your input as well. There can be a different dynamic. I think trust is it sounds like there may be some trust and there is one thing that will drive a wedge in a marriage, and it is pride for sure.
Yeah. Interesting.
God opposes the proud. And if for some reason he's writing an email, so he may be making himself sound a lot better than when they get into conversations. I don't want to just say him, but it could be either one of them. When we start to get stubborn and prideful, that will definitely drive a wedge, even if one of us is trying to be humble. If that other one just has things they're not dealing with and it's coming out in this relationship that seems to be a safe place, there's going to be a wedge. There's going to be some trust issues there.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with all of that. And I don't know exactly where, without giving some follow-up questions, I don't know where you go from here. I'll be honest with you, I'm a little frustrated with the pre-engagement couples class, that they aren't helping more to resolve this because they're right there with you and they're hearing you.
Yeah, they definitely should be.
They should be.
I wonder if the class is over. And this kind of came up during that class, and then they just never resolved it. So I'd say go back to the leaders of the class or leaders of your church and say, hey, and this is great. This is probably one of the best things for your marriage that you can learn now is how to resolve conflict. You can't avoid it. If you don't have conflict, then you're not in deep relationship. You're not being vocal about your experience because those things are going to be different, and you're human and sinful, and you're going to offend her. You're going to offend him. You're going to have to learn how to work through conflict. So the fact that maybe you recognize that now and can go get some guidance, because you're just babies in this journey.
Yeah, I think just practically, I would go to your wife or your fiance and you need to have a practical conversation about where does the final say come from. Is it going to be you? I would ask her that. Is it going to be you? Because you have to build this scenario, even though I told you I couldn't think of one. Imagine you're looking for a new house. You're going to buy a house, and there's one that is $350,000, and there's one that is $325,000. And you say, we got to get that 350. That's the one we're going to get. And she's like, I don't think that's smart. I like the one with the backyard for 325. And eventually, if you feel very strongly, because yours has the garage and it's got all the cool stuff, and hers has the backyard and the colors that she wants, somebody's going to have to make that decision. And that wedge is going to get a lot bigger. unless you say, who's going to make these kind of decisions? That's an honest question you have to ask her. And I love that you're wrestling with this before marriage, but it's something.
Yeah. Another question I think that I would ask just straight up to her, do you feel like I would abuse this authority if you gave it to me? And just see what she says.
That's a great question. I think that answer would tell all.
Yeah.
Let's move on. Question says, need Christ in my life in the subject line. Hey, Granger, I'm Devin from Minnesota. I feel like I'm getting further and further away from God, and I don't know what to do. I've tried to remember to pray before I start the day and after the day's over, but I can't remember. What should I do to be closer to my Creator? P.S. Love the podcast. It's helped me tremendously. Devin. Short and to the point. Mm-hmm. Interesting question. The display of the wrestling is always encouraging. It's the people that don't ask these kind of questions that you worry about.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you have recognized, you feel, and let me point out that is a feeling that is not a reality, because you feel. Here, let me say it this way: you feel further and further away from God. Of the two scenarios here, who's moving, you or God? That would be my question. Is it God moving or you moving? It's an easy answer. You try to remember to pray. You got to be careful that this is kind of borderline legalistically thinking right here. Like if I pray, what you're saying is you're implying that if I pray more, I'm closer to God and pleasing him more because of the amount, the quantity of prayers. One to start the day, one to finish the day. I would encourage you to kind of go backwards from that and kind of wipe away that and start back at square one and start back in the search itself and open yourself to what the reason is that you feel like you are moving away from God.
Yeah, I think my question, and do you want to be Devin for a second? Devin?
Yes, I'll be Devin.
Can I ask you some questions, man? First of all, thanks for writing in.
Of course.
Appreciate you.
Of course.
It's
cold up here in Minnesota.
What is it that you are going to experience that would affirm for you that you are closer to God? What is it that you're looking for that would give you that, like, okay, I'm now moving closer?
Well, I feel anxiety. I don't feel peace. I'm worried all the time. And the bottom line for me, Bernie, thanks for answering my question, is my own sin. I'm falling into some stuff that I didn't really want to admit on this email. Okay. I've been doing some stuff I'm pretty ashamed of.
Okay, so really what you are looking to God for and to be evidence of his existence in your life is relief from anxiety, relief from these sinful habits, and just really relief from what you feel like is kind of weighing you down. Is that right?
Yeah, I've been hanging around with some guys. We've been drinking a lot, and when I hang around those guys, I end up smoking, and then I've got this porn thing. I've been looking at some porn, so yeah.
Okay. Dang, Devin, you just you took some turns I didn't think you were going to take. But because that's fine, though, because
I'm trying to be honest with you here,
okay.
Bernie.
Yeah, thank you, Devin. The next question I was going to ask is, what is your community life like? Who are you hanging out with? How you say that you're remembering to pray. Mm-hmm. Are you spending any time at all in God's Word studying? And are you doing that with any other person besides yourself? If you are,
no, man. To be honest with you, I'm a dyslexia, and so I'm not good at reading. I don't like reading, and it's really boring. I've tried to listen to the Bible, but none of it makes sense to me. And church is full of hypocrites, and I kind of have a bad experience with religion growing up, so I don't really do that either.
Okay, Devin.
Why are you laughing at me?
I'm like rethinking this whole live podcast thing because I have an idea of what I think you're going to answer. And then you tell me you're dyslexic, which my daughter's dyslexic. I know that journey. I'm not laughing at that. It's the expectation of Devin's answers that are.
You'd be surprised at how many people listening right now go, yeah, that's me.
Yeah.
That is like the number one excuse for not reading the Bible that I have heard. I'm
Okay.
dyslexic. I don't
Okay.
read anything.
Okay. Do you have a smartphone?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Of course I do.
Okay. Do you? Because I think there's an app on there where it can actually read to you, and you can.
Yeah.
And you know what? If you're dyslexic, like you can read along with it saying it, and it actually helps you start to form the words and be able to read and improve. So you could do that. Two birds with one stone. Are you involved in a church at all? Church community?
I don't really get into religion like churches and stuff because the way I grew up, I just kind of saw the hypocrites there and it kind of bothered me a little bit.
Okay, that's fair. Is there anybody in your life that you feel like has represented who you feel like God calls a Christian to be? Just any one person.
Probably my uncle.
Your uncle, what's his name?
Rick.
Uncle Rick. Okay,
Yeah.
do you think that Uncle Rick, does he live close to you? Please say yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, even if he doesn't, we could call him. But if he lives close, do you think maybe you could, hey, Uncle Rick, do you want to grab some coffee sometime? You want to grab lunch? I'm kind of wrestling with some things, and I really respect you and look up to you a lot. I promise you, if you message Uncle Rick like that, he's going to feel really encouraged and inspired to be like, oh, Devin, I'd love to. And he is anxiously waiting for that call and waiting to have lunch with you. So practically, just start there.
Okay. I think I could do that.
And then come back to the next podcast show and we'll see how things are going. Okay.
This would be so fun. Live, right?
And the audience claps. Yeah.
Oh, Bernie, you're a genius. Wow. Man. Okay. Well, I think we kind of nailed it for Devin there.
Yeah.
We could knock out a short one.
Yeah. Last question, right?
Yeah, this is the last question.
All right.
So I'm going to do this one, a relationship advice. Me and my girlfriend have been together for just over a year, and we have been best friends since we were 6 years old. We are both 16. Recently, she has had a lot of stress with her school, a family member passing away, and other stuff. Recently, within the last 2 months, we've been getting into dumb arguments. Both of our lives are just filled with long days and lots of stuff like sports, schoolwork, work, and more work. She recently just said that it's too much for her right now, and she just wants to take a break, but still loves me and wants to get back together once she is ready. She said it could be a few weeks to a few months, but doesn't know. I don't want this relationship to end. I'm afraid we won't get back together. She's the love of my life. I want to work through the problems with her. What do I do? Thanks in advance, Zachary Adams. That's a great one for to end on and to have just a few minutes. First, we say, Zach, this is good old-fashioned heartbreak. You're 16. You are not the first one to experience this kind of pain and the reason I say it that way is because you might be thinking, you don't know what this girl is to me. She's the best girl on the planet. She's the best thing that's ever happened to me. I love her so much. You don't understand. No one understands my love for her. And then we all resoundingly say, yeah, we do. We were all 16. Bernie and I, we could just go through a list of similar stories when we were this age. So what we have to do this. Zach, we have to do this. We have to give her what she wants. You love her. You say you love her. You love her. You have to give her what she wants. And she wants time away from you. Okay? She wants to take a break. She doesn't know if it's a few months or a few weeks. You have to give her that. You hearing me, man? You got to give her what she wants, and you got to let her fly away with her little wings. If you don't, it's not love. It's obsession you have with her. It's the need you have for her to fill you up in something that you feel like you're lacking. And if you follow that path, That is not love. That would be hating her if that's how you really felt. So you got to figure out which one it is. You got to let her go.
Yeah. What's his name?
Zach.
Zach. Zach. First of all, Granger's older than me. So I was 16 not as long ago as he was, okay? I think it's only a few months, but still, the younger. Let me speak for my youth over here. I know as a 16-year-old and having this girl you've been with for a long time and known, and just any kind of break or break up can feel like your world is just, oh man, you don't understand. Like my friends are going to like look at me. They're going to think less of me. The other girls, she's going to talk to them. And what does that say about me? And I get it. The identity thing in our culture is a big deal, and like understanding where our identity lies and not finding it in a girlfriend or in other people and what they think of us. So brother, I do understand. And unfortunately, you're going to get older, and some of those things don't get easier. So I just want to tell you, like, we do understand that you have a world, and you feel like people are looking at that world, and you're trying to somewhat kind of control that world, and it feels completely unnatural to open that hand and let that thing go. I think that Granger is 100% right. You need to give her space. You need to, spend some time self-reflecting on, like, man, what is my identity? Where do I find my security and my comfort and who am I? Which is really hard at 16. I get it. Give yourself some grace. This feels like a longer chapter in your life, especially for a 16-year-old. So anything in the future is going to feel very foreign, and you probably want that comfort of like, well, I know this. But yeah, I think you got to give her some space and allow her to work out whatever it is, things calm down, figure out how she feels. But I would give her the space with no expectation, and don't like be texting her. So can we get together and talk? So what do you think? Just if you love her, like you say, I think you kind of got to let her go. And if she is feeling the same way, these things that happen in life where we get super busy, I understand that. Me and Granger both have talked about it before, how the busyness of life can be distracting. But give her some grace and some space to maybe let some of those things go, so that this relationship could actually be better on the other side of it. And also, you're 16, dude. Don't forget to be a 16-year-old.
Yeah.
Granger talks about that all the time. Don't forget that.
How you react, Zach, in this situation, in this relationship right now, will reveal whether you are loving yourself more or her more. The decision is up to you.
That's good.
That's all we got.
Y'all are the best.
See you next Monday.
See you next time.
Thanks for joining me on the Granger Smith Podcast. I appreciate all of you guys. You could help me out by rating this podcast on iTunes. If you're on YouTube, subscribe to this channel, hit that little like button and the notifications bell so that you never miss any time I upload a video. If you have a question for me that you would like me to answer, email grangersmithpodcast@gmail.com. Yee.